Okay, so before we get into it, we've got our esteemed guest, Kyle Myers, owner or partner at Saga BJJ, a local elite training facility. Before we get into the episode, if you're listening to this 2 days from now, we have a happy hour event last Wednesday of the month, February 28th, here upstairs at 86 West, where we're currently recording right now. They're really great to us, and they allow us to host this great event the end of every month. We also have a great event coming up, White Belt Wars at Fight for Tomorrow, March 23rd. It's a Saturday. It's free to enter, all white belts, all weight classes, adults only though. That's the only thing. You have to be 18 years old, or don't quite have the young guy thing figured out right now. That's Evan's deal. So get signed up for that. We'll put the link in the bio for that. And in addition to Kyle, we also have Anthony here. His
sidekick.
We have Robin to Batman. We'll say that. Mr. What'd you call him before? Mr. Iron Nips.
Oh, old Iron Nips.
That's a
that's
name
a
on the
street
book.
name.
Yeah, I like it.
Nobody's called him that in years.
It's like Gator. I like it. It's pretty good.
Yeah, so I was pretty excited for this episode. I know partly this episode's happening because you had surgery recently.
It is.
You had some downtime, so you needed to get out.
Yeah, shoulder surgery that took me out. It's a little hard for me to do these kind of things during the week with the gym and with training, but now I got some time that maybe I wouldn't prefer to have, but I have it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess do what you got to do.
Exactly.
How long are you until you can get back to training?
Yeah, so I had a labrum repair in my shoulder January 5th. So I was in a sling, couldn't move my arm for 6 weeks. I just got out of that last week. And another 5 weeks until I can even start to get back to jiu-jitsu.
Jeez.
Lightly.
You're still working out, though.
Yeah. I'm still doing stuff. I'm lifting, I'm biking, running, doing what I can. But it's not the same as having jiu-jitsu.
Are you still coaching classes and things like that?
So I can't even get on the mat and actually teach technique, but I'm still there. I'm coaching my guys. I just coached 3 guys at the ADCC Open and AC. So I have a couple other guys competing, coming up. So I'll be there cornering them, watch guys' matches, still give them feedback, but I can't actually get on the mat and teach any technique right now.
Do you have a plan to when you get back to when you're going to start competing again, or are you just going to take it?
Yeah, so I keep telling my doctor, I read this article about Lomachenko, the boxer. Yeah. He tore his labrum in a fight, right? So he said that he tore the labrum and he knew who the next guy he wanted to fight was. So he asked the doctor what the minimum amount of time that he could fight was, and they were 6 months is the bare minimum. Well, he fought 6 months later. So I keep telling my doctor I'm going to take a competitive jiu-jitsu match 6 months in. So I'm in my head, I'm oh, Lomachenko did it. I can do it. But I'm a 30-year-old not professional athlete, so.
Same, but different.
Same. But I'm in my head, I'm all right, well, this is clearly the timeline I should follow, not the conservative one.
How long ago did you guys open Saga, or how did Saga get started?
Yeah, so this is a story I've told on a couple other podcasts and stuff, but I'll tell kind of the brief version of it. So Saga used to be a gym called Paper Street Jiu-Jitsu. Me and my co-owner, Maydel Debaz, who was my coach, the whole time that I trained. We both trained there together. So when I started as a white belt in 2011, he was a purple belt. So we trained there. The gym had a different owner for 8 years-ish. Before we took over, so we bought the gym in 2020. He probably opened 2011, 2012 with Paper Street Jiu-Jitsu. The gym went through a couple different location changes, grew, kind of to the size that it was. And then during COVID, like everything else, that business became a lot harder. So the old owner was looking to get out of it. His wife had gotten a new job. She was kind of the primary earner for their family. They had a young kid. So they moved out to Penn State area. So he, kind of shopped the gym around to a couple different black belts at the time. I guess I was a brown belt when he was doing that. He kind of shopped the gym around. He had another guy who wasn't so serious about buying it. So he came to me and said, would you be interested in buying it? I had been coaching since I was a purple belt, so for years at that time. And I said, yeah, man, it's not really the opportune time to do it, but if I was ever going to do it, I guess I would now. And I wanted to have Maida, because he was my coach, kind of come along with me for that. And he had talked about opening his own gym. Both of us taught a lot of the classes at Paper Street. So we kind of pulled the money together, figured if we'll buy it. It's cheap. If it doesn't work out because of COVID, You know, it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Both of us had our day jobs. We weren't going to quit our day jobs. So we bought the gym, and it's been a success since then. We've really put a lot into it to make it a success, but, you know, buying it was probably one of the best decisions I ever made.
That's awesome. Did you ever really have serious aspirations of owning a gym, or was this kind of just something you guys would shoot the shit on? Like how, because sometimes when you talk to people, they have like Gilmar, for instance, like when I met Gilmar, I knew he was going to own a content creation business. Like that's just the direction he was in. Was that kind of like your trajectory?
Yeah, so my trajectory kind of goes all over the place. So when I graduated from high school, I went to college for exercise science. I graduated with my associates in exercise science, and I thought I wanted to open a gym. I had been working out, you know, I wrestled, I was doing jiu-jitsu since I was in high school, but I wanted to open a weightlifting, like fitness style gym. So I started working as a personal trainer. Absolutely fucking hated it. It was one of the worst jobs I've ever had in my life.
Yeah, it is a grind.
Yeah, and I did it in a gym not too far away from here in New Britain that doesn't exist anymore. It was this chain of gyms that they were trying to bring into Pennsylvania, kind of like an LA Fitness style thing, and all of them that were in Pennsylvania closed because of how awfully they were ran, I would imagine. But the job just sucked the life for fitness out of me. So I ended up, I was working in an office for like a year trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and that's kind of when I joined the Army. But so that dream of owning a gym kind of went out the window. I joined the Army. I tried to go back to school, did some other things, and then started in like my current full-time like day job, which is working in veterinary medicine. I manage a veterinary hospital now for like my 9 to 5. But I started working there,
which is hilarious.
Yeah,
like,
nobody expects that when I talk to them.
If you don't know Kyle, like when you first meet him, first like handful of times you meet him, possibly forever, you're an intimidating dude. Like you have just like this like, and you're also like your size comes into play if you're a smaller guy. So like I've called you a menace before after like going with you, and you're like, I'll take it. So when I heard you had a love for animals, I was like, damn, dude, like he does have a soft side.
Yeah, it's so like
what do you got to say for yourself over here?
He'll send me pictures of him wearing like scrubs, like holding puppies and like cats, and I'm like, and they'll kick my ass on the mat. I'm like, this is.
So I tell a lot of people like, so my wife's a police officer, and I manage a veterinary hospital. But before that, I was a vet tech, which is a, like 99% female-dominated field. You know what I mean? I've worked at places where I'm the only guy that works there. So I used to always tell people that, and they look at the two of us, and my wife is very small and very sweet all the time, and they're like, the careers kind of look like they got reversed for you guys. So
yeah, but you know, you own it.
You know what I think, though? I think that so many people are one-dimensional, right? Like, you look at this guy, and he's big, and he's tough, and he does jiu-jitsu, and he's a cop, and whatever, or they're, you know, a construction worker, and it's like, all right, dude, but is that all there is to you? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I kind of like that. Even when I was in the Army, it was like, all right, well, I'm at this job where it's all women all the time. Then I go to drill or go to do military stuff. It's all guys. I have some different perspective in my life. I think same thing with people that live in jiu-jitsu world all the time. Yeah. You just live in jiu-jitsu world. You're around jiu-jitsu people all the time. I don't know. What does that do to your personality?
Nothing good. And that's kind of one of the core reasons we started a podcast. Like a lot of people come on here sometimes expecting some sort of, you know, scripted measures being taken place, and I'm like, no, it's super chill. We're gonna talk about you and see what happens. And sometimes people are like, that's not good for me. Like I need to have it planned, because a handful of people have come on with like they're talking points, and you know they're trying in their mind, like they're calculating like, hey, how can I hit this thing about my like? And I'm like, it's not doing you any good, because you know you're this big menacing dude, but the second you find out that you know what you do for a living, you're like, oh, you're much more approachable. People aren't as like,
well,
it helps you for people to.
It keeps you level headed too. Yeah. Like the women that I work with could give 2 fucks less that I do jiu-jitsu. They think it's weird. They're like, oh, you go and roll around with other dudes on a mat? That's a strange hobby. All right, man, whatever makes you happy. You have a weird Instagram. And I'm like, all right, but then it's like if I just lived in jiu-jitsu world and all the time and all the guys are like, oh, you're a black belt. No, you're good at jiu-jitsu. It's like, I don't know. Then when I go out and I have surgery and I don't have that anymore, my whole self-worth would be tied into that. That's just, I don't know. That never made sense to me.
That is really, that is interesting to think about.
Yeah, my life didn't end just because I can't do jiu-jitsu. And I own a jiu-jitsu gym and probably compete more than 90% of people with jiu-jitsu in their Instagram handle. You know what I mean? It means more to me than a lot of people, but live your life without it sometimes.
Yeah, would you, like, when people approach you guys specifically, are you guys attracting, like, the big boys? Are you guys attracting beginners? Like, what kind of gym do you have?
So Saga has kind of become a source for heavyweights in the area. So a little bit of background on that. I'm a jiu-jitsu black belt. I compete a lot. Obviously, you guys know that. And I've kind of made a name for myself in competition. You know, I've been on, if people are familiar with jiu-jitsu, Fight to Win, which is like one of the biggest promotions. I've been on there 8 times. I've been on Subversive, which is one of the big promotions. I was the finisher sub-only champion, which is probably the biggest sub-only on the East Coast. So, I mean, I've been around the block with jiu-jitsu, competing, coaching. My brother's a black belt, fought pro MMA. So a lot of the guys in the competitive scene that are bigger don't have a lot of guys to train with. As you can imagine, when you're 200, 250 pounds, not everybody's lining up to train with you. I mean, you guys know. You guys all train.
You know what it's like.
Yeah, yeah. Not everybody's as blockheaded as Anthony and is willing to get beat up by the heavyweights.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it. I know my approach to the big guys is just now, like at purple belt, is just now getting like I'm starting to get a strategy.
Yeah.
Like the heavier, like it goes like by 10 pounds for me. Like every 10-pound jump, like if you're 20, 30, 50 pounds more than me, like I have to have like a different set of tools at each level.
Well, it's kind of funny because you even when you get to black belt, size matters. Jiu-jitsu coaches that tell you that it don't are lying and they're trying to sell you something. Size will always matter. Strength will always matter. Just like flexibility and cardio will always matter. But it's learning how to deal with it effectively using the jiu-jitsu takes time. But there's still guys bigger than me. I'm 200 pounds, like I said, 200-pound black belt, but I competed heavyweight. I competed against, I don't know how much you follow competitive jiu. You know who Big Dan is?
Yeah.
I had a match against Big Dan at Emerald City Open. He's 300 pounds, 6'6". Literally, they call him the jiu-jitsu giant. I didn't look at that dude and go, oh, my God, he's too big. I'm not going to grapple him. I was like, all right, how am I going to figure this out? You know what I mean? And that's what jiu-jitsu gives you. But I don't look at that guy and go, oh, he shouldn't use his size,
Yeah. I mean, like 2 weeks ago I rolled with your brother, and at one point he just like picked me up. Like,
yeah, that part where the Hulk picks up Loki and kind of bangs him around? That's my brother rolling with anybody under 180 pounds.
Yeah, he just like, I was like starting, I was like, oh man, I'm getting in, got down there, and then just like literally lifted me up and put me in like side control or something. I was like, all right.
I was just
Cool,
telling
dude.
I was just telling this story to my physical therapist the other day because we were talking about people being inhumanly strong. So years ago, we were at a tournament. My brother has to grapple this guy, Big Victor, who's like a known jiu-jitsu guy. This guy he looked like what you imagine a Viking would look like in your head. 6'5", 260, professional strongman. I'm pretty sure he's like a door kicker for the DEA or something. Like, this dude is an intimidating dude, and nobody wanted to grapple this guy. Alex was thrilled to have to grapple this guy. He was so excited. And he's great. He has 2 matches. They're the only 2 guys in the bracket, so it was best 2 out of 3. So he has 2 matches with them. In the first match, Alex picks this dude up in an arm bar. It was unreal. The whole crowd was like, couldn't believe it was happening. Drops the guy out of the arm bar. They DQ'd him for dropping the guy out of the arm bar. So they have to have this second match. They have the second match, and I'm talking to Alex, and I'm like, all right, man, like, he's so big. You were trying to bang on him for a little bit. You couldn't get him down. Don't get underneath of him. And Alex is like, oh, I'm not going to get underneath of him. And I was like, what are you going to do to this guy? There's no way that you can take him down. Alex shoots a double leg on this dude, picks him up over his head, drops him like 6 feet. I thought he killed the guy, and then puts him in scarf hold and Americanas him. And he's like, told you I wasn't going to have to get under him.
His brother's more than menace, though.
Yeah.
Sure.
That's why he has that mustache.
Yeah.
He's an evil villain, James Bond.
Yeah.
Yeah. He would be like the guy who just like, you have to like get hit with a rock like a bunch of times.
Yeah. We were at a tournament one time, and this smaller black belt comes up to him. He's like, I wouldn't take you on from the front. He's like, I might have to take you out at the knees first and then get you.
Yeah, pull Glock guard.
Yeah, right, exactly. But I guess all that to say, Saga has become a destination for heavyweights for competitive training. But I don't want people to think that's only the kind of gym we are. So that really has become like my Monday night competition class, which is like my pride and joy as a coach. I really shaped that and made that into what it is now.
And that's your open mat is.
Yeah, so it shifted more into an open mat. It used to be structured more like a competition class. Not everybody's looking for that, but a lot of people like the open mat where they can kind of roll at their own pace. But for my guys that I know are going to compete at that open mat, I'll push them. Now I can watch their matches. It's a great way for me to give them feedback in between the matches. But the rest of the week, besides that one class on the schedule, we are a jiu-jitsu gym that is for everybody. We have kids class for ages 7 through 14. We have 2 specific beginners classes, which you don't get at a lot of gyms, which is a great place to start.
Yeah, that's a huge deal, especially for the people, because jiu-jitsu is kind of blown up. That's like at least the last 5 or so years. that there's a lot of people that really haven't even played any sports before that want to try it. And
There's
I think
people
it's
that play
really,
sports and have issues.
yeah. So there's like, and yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of like a different athleticism you need for grappling sports. So I think it's important. It's a little interesting when gyms, from my experience, kind of just throw everybody together and just kind of like mash the true beginners with like, it just kind of, I don't think it takes away as much for the experienced people as it does for like the new people. You probably hurt members.
When I first got there, like they just threw me in with everybody, and like you're just gonna roll, take whatever beginner classes we offer. But when he took over, it was kind of more like geared to. We have a lot of like black belts, and they kind of took over like all the coaching and stuff. And it's more technical. Like all the new guys, and my brother's like killing it right now because he's got all these guys helping him out.
Yeah, Anthony's brother Austin is one of our white belts, and he just started training within the last year, and he's really taken to it. And our guys are great. There's a much bigger culture to the gym than just me. I don't coach every class at my gym, and I wouldn't want to coach every class at my gym. My co-owner Maida, between the two of us, we don't even coach every class. So we have 6 black belts at the gym right now, and we really do try and split the teaching between all of us. One of our guys, Joe, he was a Division I wrestler. He coached at Drexel, and he's a jiu-jitsu black belt. To not use that guy's coaching knowledge would be stupid. For me to be like, oh, I could coach a wrestling jiu-jitsu for a jiu-jitsu class. Sure, I could, but why wouldn't I utilize the guys that are around me that can do it much better?
Well, I think there's the same thing they say about like doctors aren't necessarily good businessmen. Mm-hmm. It's like you could be the one running the gym. Like, I don't even think you technically need to be a black belt to run a successful gym, as long as you understand like what a good gym needs, and then you feed that. I think it's it's a testament to kind of what you were capable to bring together and like that culture, because like ultimately you were responsible for the culture that you were put together. Like Saga, you have the logo, like you guys have your your reputation, the brand, and everything.
Right.
That was all you, but I mean, you have to, as a business owner, you have to rely on other people.
Yeah, and it's especially for these situations. If I had built this kind of cult of personality around myself, and it was all about my teaching and my coaching, if something happens like me being out for my shoulder, then my business might suffer. My business is not suffering with me being out. I mean, I would love to be there actually being able to get on the mat and coaching, but I didn't just walk out the door. But also, all my coaches that are filling in for me, they want the same things. They value the same things. They teach a standard of jiu-jitsu that I agree with. They have a vested interest in the guys because they're a member of the gym. So me being out, while my students aren't getting my instruction, they're getting instruction that I would seek out for myself. All of the guys that we have teaching classes, I still go to all their classes. You know what I mean? So we've, like you said, we've kind of built this whole system of guys around us that's very valuable for that situation, but also just to make the gym better.
Well, like going back to what you said before, you joined the Army after you tried to be an athlete?
Yeah, so I was a personal trainer, and like I said, I kind of hated that job, and I was working this job at a desk after that for about a year, and that was just not for me. I couldn't just sit down and work at a desk, and it was like soul crushing. So I wanted to go back to college, and I thought I wanted to go to nursing school. So I joined the Army as a medic, the Army National Guard. So I went to basic training, went to medic school, came back, went to college for nursing for a semester. Didn't like it. It was too hard. I was like trying to work 2 jobs and be in the Army and go to school. It was just too much. So I stopped doing that, got my job at the veterinary hospital because I was a medic in the Army. I knew a little bit about medicine. So I was like, all right, I can get this job. My mom worked at that veterinary hospital, so it was like I had an in. So I served in the Army and worked at that same vet that I manage now for 6 years. And when I got done with the Army, I wanted to continue my service, but I didn't really want to still be in the Army. I wanted to kind of change it up and maybe even do a different job in the Army. So I found this opportunity to be a surgical technician in the Air National Guard. So I switched branches. So I was 6 years in the Army and 3 years in the Air Force. So 6 years as an Army medic, and 3 years as an Air Force surgical technician.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
G.I. Joe.
Yeah. I always tell people, I'm like, my military service was not that cool, but I did it, and you know what? It was what it was.
Yeah, I think like not everybody can be, the level 0 here. Like not everybody can be the cowboy and be the dude writing the book or the guy getting the like. Yeah. There's a lot. It takes a lot to make the Army go, and I think anybody that serves, no matter what your function,
Yeah, and I
you're
mean,
doing something that
I was a medic in
lot of
a
us don't.
combat unit. You know, I got to blow shit up and shoot guns and see all that stuff. Just those opportunities to go fight in a war or whatever weren't presented to me. And I think that's fine. You know, a lot of guys maybe are bitter about that if they don't get to do it, or they try and overinflate what they did do. And I just try not to do that. Like I said, my service was what it was, and I'm fine with it, you know?
Yeah, it's true. The guys that I know that, like, were in some sort of, like, special teams thing or, like, infantry, like, I get that mentality where, like, they would have been upset if they didn't deploy into combat, because, like, that's kind of like, it's like training to be a firefighter and then never fighting a fire.
As medics, we kind of have a unique perspective, too, because if I would ever had to do my job, it's because somebody's getting hurt. So, like, as a medic, it's a weird job where you want to never have to do your job.
Yeah.
Especially as a combat medic.
Yeah.
And then when I was a surgery tech, you know, I worked at military hospitals and got to help with surgeries, you know, for guys that have been wounded overseas or guys that were wounded here. So I did feel like I got to contribute and do my part towards that.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Do you ever look back and, like, wish you stayed in, like, the medical field for human beings rather than animals?
No. I had no desire to work in human medicine. So when I was the medic and I was trying to go to nursing school and I got out of it, I could have worked at a hospital. I was a certified EMT or worked for an ambulance company, and I just didn't want to do it. The healthcare system has a lot of problems that maybe veterinary doesn't have, and we have a lot of our own problems. And, you know, I don't know. I don't really love talking about my day job all that much. It's not that interesting. But veterinary has a lot of problems, but human medicine just had a lot of things that I didn't really want to be a part of. And the hours are shitty with training. I've always tried to find jobs that I could keep doing jiu-jitsu 6 days a week.
So the priority since like, how far into your training, you started in 2011, like, how far into that training did jiu-jitsu, like, kind of take precedent over, you know, things like your job or stuff like that?
Man, I don't know. I think that I always had that idea that I wanted to start a gym, and since I started jiu-jitsu, I've always competed and I've always been passionate about it. And I think that, like, my wife would say, I'm overly interested in everything I do. So, like, I fixate on what I'm doing. Jiu-jitsu has been the thing that I fixated on doing, but then haven't lost that fixation. You know, like, dudes always get hobbies and then they abandon them.
Yeah.
I'm no different. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, this week I want to do this, and this week I want to do this.
I joke about that all the time with people. Like, I wish I could get into just one thing, because I don't have hobby. What did Gunnar say? He doesn't have hobbies. He has interests.
Yeah.
And it costs a lot of money to have interests, because it's like,
bro.
oh, look, we have all this podcast equipment. I have all these cameras.
Yep.
Then you get into cars. Then now I'm into jiu-jitsu. Like,
Yeah.
And I definitely will say, of all the things, probably not as strongly as you do feel that way, but jiu-jitsu has really been something that, of all the things that I've gotten into, has definitely hung out the longest. And I need jiu-jitsu in a way that, like, some people might say is unhealthy, but, like, Friday, like, if we don't have tappy hour, or, like, say, like, I miss Saturday, like, something like that happens, like, Tuesday night, I didn't train last week because I'm
getting itchy hearing you talk about it. I'm like an addict that hasn't had a hit.
Dude, I was exhausted last Tuesday. I got up way too early in the morning and just had, like, a beat day, and, like, 7:30 rolled around, and I was like, oh, man, I need to just chill. Next morning, I woke up, and I was like, God damn it. Like, I was like,
that training regret will make you feel like it's like a hangover. Just make you feel like a piece of shit.
I totally could have gone. My whoop strap score is amazing.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah, it's the worst.
Or
It's like a stress relief. Like,
For me, it's learning when to take a day off. Honestly, it's really hard. This actually being out for my surgery has given me a lot of perspective on it, and it's been, I think, good for me to take some time off, and not even just for this injury, which I was competing with this for a year, shooting it with cortisone shots, and like I competed against this giant, like 280-pound heavyweight, like 3 days after getting a cortisone shot in my shoulder on Halloween of last year. So I was just doing shit I shouldn't have been doing, and I have, you know, my knees hurt, my elbows hurt. All that's kind of going away without training for a little bit. So,
I mean, yeah, just don't go, like, inventing, like, a new knee strap or something like that.
yeah,
Like,
right.
and you can, like, start an infomercial and be like, hey, when I was down for the count.
Yeah, that's what I should do. This is my shoulder rehab program to get back.
This is for $9.99.
Fuck Lomachenko. I did it in 5 months. Like, I just need to do it quicker.
Yeah, just market it.
Yeah.
Be like, I wanted to get back to the mats, and so do you.
Yeah, right.
For $9.99, you can buy. Kyle's shoulder rehab kit.
That's true, man. If I never had to take blood on another dog again because I could get out of it, it might be worth it.
Yeah. Just like have like just complete fill it with just bullshit. Just be like, just grind your teeth. Like page 3, like toughen up.
Dude, you read some of those online programs. Oh my God. That's talk about a big pet peeve of mine with the jiu-jitsu community is like all these people that don't really have competition experience, and they'll be like, read my 2-week guide to mental toughness to prepare for your first jiu-jitsu competition. I'm like, you're a fucking blue belt that's never won anything. Why are you writing this? And then it will be like, oh, make sure you to lock your jaw and set your thoughts positive for the day. You're just writing nonsense. Drives me crazy.
What like do you like other than Evan's like white belt wars platform that he's putting together for, I guess this is like the second or third time he's doing it. Like how do you, when people are like beginners or white belts, like how do you kind of approach that like mentality of getting someone ready to compete that's like really has no, you know?
So it depends on what they want out of it, right? So jiu-jitsu competition can be used for a lot of different things. It can be used as a marker to see where you're at in your jiu-jitsu. It can be used to fuel your passion for jiu-jitsu like it did for me throughout my career. It can be used just for fun, you know what I mean? It can be used as a team bonding thing. I think as a coach, you need to see what the person wants out of their competition, just like you need to see what the person wants out of their jiu-jitsu. The 20-year-old dude that tells me that he wants to win a black belt world championship doesn't need the same thing out of his jiu-jitsu or the same thing out of him competing as the 40-year-old dude that comes to me 50 pounds overweight and he loves the UFC and listens to Joe Rogan and now he wants to try jiu-jitsu. They don't need the same things out of jiu-jitsu. They don't need the same things out of competition. They probably don't need the same things out of their life. So if I approach that with like a one-size-fits-all kind of thing, I think that would make me a bad coach, honestly, because that's what bad coaches do. They try and treat everybody the same or try and teach them the same style of jiu-jitsu. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, do you have, like, how many white belts? Like, what's, like, the demographic of belts you guys have right now?
Yeah, we have a lot of upper belts, but it's getting better, honestly. We're offering those beginner classes, and my purple belt, Paul, that teaches them is awesome, and he's really developing that program, and some of the other black belts that have taught those beginners classes in the past have helped. But I would say probably 60% upper belts, 40% lower belts being white and blue.
Interesting.
It comes in waves too. We have like guys getting promoted, and then like the white belts come in
Yeah.
quick, and then they're up to blue.
White belts tend to join as a group and stay as a group. So like you'll notice that the white belts have started together. Like I know your little group of guys that have been there. Yeah. They'll be the guys that have like hacked it out past their white belt buddies, and then if they can hack it out past blue belt, chances are they'll be there for the rest of the time.
Yeah, we had a couple, probably like 2 or 3 promotions ago. I just kept like for weeks leading up to it, and I was like just yelling blue wave, because I thought like a bunch of white belts were getting blue belts, and Evan just was just like, nope.
Yeah.
Nope, they're not ready.
Evan and me probably come from the same school of thought, man. Yeah. Belt promotions are a controversial topic, how you promote people, why you promote people. Yeah. But to get back to your original question, so let's say, the average person that wants to do a jiu-jitsu competition, and maybe they don't know why they want to compete. They're 20 years old. They don't know if they want to do competitive jiu-jitsu or if they just want to do it for fun. It's their first one, right? They're just dipping their toes in the water. Something like what Evan's doing with White Belt Wars is so good for the community, right? To have that, first off, no financial commitment. For young guys, that's tough. Maybe they don't compete because they don't want to spend $100, and they could have been great competitors, or they would love it, even as a hobbyist competitor.
But they just get expensive.
Yeah, right. So that just the less barriers to entry to anything is good, right? So not having that barrier to entry of the money, not having that barrier of entry of it taking all day. Evan's running it efficiently. He's running it in his gym. Running it in a nice place like Fight for Tomorrow, in a place that you're comfortable in. If you're a white belt, you've probably only rolled in a gym, right? So now you're just going to go roll in a gym. Still comfortable in that environment. Having refs and stuff that are willing to work with white belts. It's an all white belt tournament. You would expect that the refs are going to be more patient with the white belts. They don't know the rules. It's their first time competing, most of them. So Evan has done a lot to try and make that best environment. Me and him have kind of talked about competition and why we think it doesn't, jiu-jitsu competitions could be improved. And what he's doing is honestly great, because there was way less competitions when I was a white belt, but I've seen the gamut of it, right? I've competed in gyms, I've competed in arenas, I've competed in basements in churches, I've done it all. You know what I mean? I've competed in
church basement.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Dude, we did this tournament. My brother did it, and it was in a church basement in Brooklyn. It was weird. It was very interesting.
Yeah, did you guys have to like take communion before you like? You
And
just
dude,
keep-
we're like, this is
it
kind
just comes
of.
through with the smoke and just like blesses the whole
so
crowd.
We were like, this is kind of cool, like Fight Club, but kind of weird and lame too. I don't know. The mat was like really small. We were afraid guys were gonna go flying into the concrete.
Yeah, just I don't know. Like, what would be like a cool thing you could call it? You could call it like tap for communion or something like that. Like something dumb.
So,
Jesus, don't tap.
Holy Wars.
Holy
That's
Wars.
exactly what you gotta. You gotta.
Holy
There's
Wars.
one. There's one in Ohio called Twisted Church that they do in an old church. That's pretty dope.
Twisted church.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody's trying to have a gimmick. You know what I mean?
I mean, you got.
Yeah, you have to. How are you gonna get attention? A crowded landscape.
Yeah, you got it. You can't knock it.
Yeah.
Well, how'd you come up with the name Saga?
Yeah, so when we were buying the gym, it was called Paper Street Jiu-Jitsu. Me and my coach both hated it. We were like, everybody's always like, oh, is it on Paper Street? It must be. And we're like, no, because it was named after, if you ever seen Fight Club,
Yeah.
where they make the soap, and Fight Club is called Paper Street Soap Company. I got no attachment to that movie, so I was like, all right, this name sucks. Let me get rid of this name. So we can't, dude, I was writing names because I was leaving. I was going on 3 months. Right when we bought the gym, I went on 3 months orders for the Air Force. So I wasn't there for the first 3 months we owned the gym.
Okay.
So we kept it as the old name, and I would go back and forth with my co-owner, and I was like, dude, what about this name? What about this name? What about this name? And he's like, those fucking suck. I don't want to do that. We knew our logo, so our thing is snakes, right? We knew our logo was going to be a snake. So I'm like, we can't call it like Cobra Jiu-Jitsu. It's too fucking Cobra Kai. Everybody's going to be like, wow, that's lame. So I was like, dude, everybody that does jiu-jitsu has a story, right? And everybody thinks it's like the most epic story in the world. So Saga means like an epic story. Like, I don't know, people usually think of like The Lord of the Rings or something like that. It's like a saga, right? Or Star Wars. Mm-hmm. So I was like, dude, Saga Jiu-Jitsu. Like your jiu-jitsu is your saga. It's the story of your jiu-jitsu. Whether it's epic or you're a shitty white belt that quits in 2 weeks, it's still your story, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's how we came up with it. And that's why our thing is write your saga or, you know, whatever.
That's
Other
awesome.
stuff we've used, yeah.
What would you say like is your style of jiu-jitsu if you could put like a name on it? Like what kind of like strategy is you playing?
my one coach, James Booth, who's one of the best influences in my jiu-jitsu, he used to say, he's like, your jiu-jitsu style is like you would just do whatever pops into your brain. He's like, everybody else's jiu-jitsu is like a web. It's all connected. He's like, yours is like a bunch of clouds, right? So like for people that have ever seen me do jiu-jitsu, I do rubber guard, which is like, it requires a ton of hip and knee flexibility. You don't really see anybody over 160 pounds do it. No. I do it. You know what I mean? I wrestled. I can't stand wrestling. So I pull guard. You don't usually see big guys do that. I use guillotine chokes a lot, which is like an anti-wrestling thing. Like I said, my brother's a black belt. He's very wrestling heavy. So coming up in parallel to him, I think I just developed a lot of stuff that was anti-wrestling. Rubber guard was invented to beat wrestling. Guillotines beat double leg takedowns. And then throughout jiu-jitsu, I've had so many coaches and so many influences, not just one guy, that I've just grabbed little bits and pieces. And then I've competed. So I'll be like, delete this out of my game because I want this because it's been what I've been successful with in competition. Or I ran into this once. Let me pick up the defense to that. So there wasn't this like big structured style. And my coach, Maida, he was never the kind of guy that was like, you have to roll like me. So me and him roll completely differently. He always says when he coaches me, he won't say what he wants me to do because he's like, I would never do the shit you do. So he just calls out what the other guy's doing. He's like, all right, react the way that you're going to react to this. And that's been our vibe since I was competing as a purple belt.
That's an interesting like trust relationship like from his coaching perspective because most coaches you're hearing them yell strategy as like, you know, or you got like the coach that's just like, just get up. Like you're in the middle of the mat and they're just not very helpful.
Yeah.
But
non-coaching, I call that. You're just saying the obvious. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thanks. Should I try winning too?
Yeah. But to have the awareness to kind of like trust that you're going to do what you got to do, but like he can kind of like feed you information from the other side. That's not very common.
Yeah. So the way we developed that, so he's been my coach. So he was never really coaching. We didn't have a lot of competitors when it was the other gym. Well, the old coach and me, you know, had our relationship that we had. So he didn't coach me. The guy that owned the gym didn't coach me. So one time I just asked Maida, I said, you know, you train me all the time. You work with me. I'm going to do this jiu-jitsu match. Do you think you would corner me? And he's like, oh, I've never done that before. You know what I mean? I said, well, man, come out and try it. And jiu-jitsu super fights were just becoming a new thing where you just have one match rather than the tournament. So he's like, I don't really know what that's going to be like. So we started going to these matches, and he's not like a yelling, screaming kind of guy. And I'm a very low-stress competitor. Like some guys get real amped up, and they are like sweating, and they can't make jokes, and they got to have like their motivational music and do their Wim Hof breathing. I'm not like that. I'm like shooting the shit, like just kind of joking around, and he brought that same vibe to it. I'm intense when I step on the mat, but I think you just burn all that intensity out if you're like that throughout your whole warm up. So he started coaching me, and through a couple matches, he realized, he's like, I was calling out shit, and you were just like not doing it. So he's like, why would I do that? But he's like, I have the advantage of this kind of 360 outside view. So he's like, I can see things they're about to set up and just give you that feedback, and you can react the way you want to react. And that's the coaching relationship we've had.
Yeah, that's smart, because at that level, like you should be trusted to, know when you can get up and things like that. So
right, and it's so many jiu-jitsu not having a unified rule set. You don't always want to react the same way. You know what I mean? Most of what I've done is sub only, but I did ADCC trials last year, and I ended up losing by a negative for pulling guard to a former trials winner who obviously was very, fluid in that rule set. Yeah, they do it. The ADCC is points. And that's just like a lack of awareness in that rule set. But, in what I compete in most of the time, wouldn't have mattered.
I definitely prefer I've never competed in a sub-only match. Yeah. But I definitely would prefer that rule set over the points rule set, mainly because, I guess, I'm a purist, I guess, because, I think, martial arts, it's, ultimately, your goal is to, finish your opponent and, just scoring from points because, you rode your knee on my belly the whole time. I guess that is a sport. I have respect for it, but my preference would be anything that's just got to be finished on the mat, especially the unlimited time where you have to finish with subs.
I've done one unlimited time match, and I did it against a very good black belt who I've had matches with in a bunch of other rule sets. It was 45 minutes long.
Yeah.
45 minutes. I don't want to do anything for 45 minutes. I don't want to eat my favorite food for 45 minutes. I don't want to watch my favorite movie for 45 minutes straight without getting up. You know what I mean? 45 minutes is awful. And I lost the match by submission, but the next day, I felt like I had the flu. So any guy that's try and do a no time limit sub only match sometime.
I'm not saying it's enjoyable. I just think from a real life scenario to a sport. Ultimately, martial arts was kind of the purpose of it was kind of to practice killing each other. So I just kind of see the ultimate way to kind of iron it out is we're not going to put a time limit on it. Whoever gets the ultimate advantage. It's just kind of because there's so much argument over you have the butt scooting argument. You have different rule sets. I didn't know I was playing that rule set.
Yeah.
People aren't familiar with it. I think that the unlimited time sub only is just the purest.
It is the purest, but for a sport, sports are about more than purity of the art form. They're about competition, right? So rule sets beget competition, and there has to be some sort of strategy. So no time limit, you can really just stall, and you see things 2-hour matches. I mean, Flo's tried it, you know what I mean? Point. So if you're trying to grow this as a sport and make it a legitimate athletic endeavor, you need a unified rule set. You need a rule set that's exciting to watch as a product. It's because you guys can say that's the purest form, and it is. Would you sit down and watch a 2-hour-long jiu-jitsu match? No.
Probably not.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, so I didn't necessarily think about it from that perspective.
So that's how I think about it as a competitor and as an athlete, right? I want jiu-jitsu to grow, and especially I'm getting, I'm 31 years old. I understand that I'm not going to go win a black belt world championship, so I have to think about the future of this sport and people that are going to compete in it. And I think that in order for it to grow, it needs to find a rule set. Every other sport in the world you go play a round of golf anywhere, you know what you're going to play. You watch an NFL game or a college football game, you know that they're playing football. You watch any sport in the world that has a unified rule set. Jiu-jitsu just cannot seem to do that.
Yeah, I mean, we saw what happened with the XFL when they tried to come in and change the rules. It just fell apart. People are we can't.
Right, you can't follow it. It's corny. Players were getting hurt doing that stupid stuff.
And then, so would you say that the rule set argument right now is kind of the thing that's plaguing jiu-jitsu's success, or what do you think's holding jiu-jitsu back?
That there's a lot that's holding jiu-jitsu back. I think that some of the thoughts around it are kind of outdated. There's a lot of people that are trying to keep it in this pure form and give a lot of credit to the old school Brazilian ways of doing things, and guys that don't really treat their gyms like businesses, and they're not growing it. They're kind of gatekeeping it, I think keeps a lot of people out, or they want to keep this purity of jiu-jitsu that doesn't really exist. And it's all right, well, we can take these ideas from whatever businesses and bring them to jiu-jitsu and grow jiu-jitsu. But for competitive jiu-jitsu, it is 100% the rule set thing. If you can't flick it on and know what you're watching as a fan of it, or as a black belt and I don't understand the rules, then how are you ever going to grow it to the white belt guy that's only been training for 2 weeks? It's like, I'm really into jiu-jitsu. I'm going to watch all the jiu-jitsu matches. You can't. You know what I mean? The little kid playing baseball can sit down and watch a baseball game and be like, I understand this. I do this.
Yeah, I mean, there's been innumerable amount of times where we've been like having a discussion at the gym and we got to like Google a points conversation. Like somebody's like, I have no idea what that is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm very up on competitive jiu-jitsu and there's matches that I can't score because every company wants to have I've competed for tournaments that want to have their own rule set. I'm like, I've been doing this for so long that you would think I would have competed in every rule set there is to compete in. Everybody's always making new ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It really hampers it, in my opinion.
So I've been training jiu-jitsu for like 7 or 8 years now, and it's wild to think that, and it could be my perspective, so you can like lay it out for me. I feel like jiu-jitsu has changed a lot in the last 8 years in terms of like what like strategies people are using, what moves are being deployed, things like that. Like, where do you see jiu-jitsu going in like another like 8 or 10 years? Like, what do you think? What do you see like up and coming now that's like a trend?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how much it's changed just in the time that I started. So I started in 2011. So just the amount of gyms. When I first started training, maybe in my area within an hour drive, there's 4 or 5 gyms. Now, 20. You know what I mean? Like, it is booming. So the amount of different places to train has become, it's changed so much.
And there's a lot of really good places.
Right, there's a lot of high quality jiu-jitsu.
It's wild to think that like in this area of the country, we have like the level of jiu-jitsu that we do right now.
We do, yeah. And I've trained all over the country because of being in the military, and the level of jiu-jitsu on the East Coast is very, very high.
Yeah. That makes me proud.
And I've heard that same thing about California and about Austin. But, you know, I've trained in great gyms, but the consistent quality of jiu-jitsu here is very good. And you can see that. I mean, all the top jiu-jitsu guys in the world right now, so many of them came from this area. Gordon Ryan, Gary Tonin, Nick Urod, all from Jersey. You know what I mean? I've trained with some of those guys. I've trained with Nick Urod. So, like, this area has brought up so many good people. But the other thing that I really see changing is as more and more money comes into the sport, they're attracting more and more athletic people. There's more eyes on it. If we can finally get to the point where people can consistently be full-time jiu-jitsu athletes, if the money comes to that, then I think you'll really start to see the level accelerate, because more and more it's becoming about athleticism. You used to get guys that, and you still do sometimes, that win world championships while working a full-time job. Less and less is that happening. The average age of those guys is going down. They're training full-time more. The opportunities for them to make money are more. So you're seeing them become professional athletes, and I really think that's what's going to change it.
Yeah. Money, it always comes down to money.
Yeah, it does.
It'd be wild to think like, hey, you just like win a world championship and then Monday you just like go and like you just clock in at just some like random job that has nothing to do with people.
That's
have no idea.
That was still happening to dudes in the UFC up until a couple years ago. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is wild.
Yeah, it's crazy to hear that.
I think like Conor, like McGregor, when he got like big, everyone started getting into jiu-jitsu as like a big like, cause like you said, it wasn't that big when like I started a couple years ago. And now, like, it's like everywhere you go, there's gyms all around here and stuff, and kind of took everyone by storm. So that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's cool to see. Yeah, I was watching something during All-Star Weekend. They had this segment of back when the NBA, before there was a players' union, and how some guys were scraping by working. You know, it was costing them money to play basketball. So then they came together, boycotted an All-Star Weekend thing, and then created the players' union. And it's just crazy how that happened. So, you know, history could repeat itself. It could happen with jiu-jitsu. That'd be pretty sick.
Yeah, that makes me want to just tell LeBron James to shut the hell up.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, run the ball, dude.
Yeah, dude. Run the ball. Dribble the ball.
Whatever.
Shove
I don't
and
care.
dribble, whatever they say. Run the ball.
Be like,
Dude, throw the ball. Shut up.
Yeah, dude. Kick a basket.
Yeah, big basket.
Bunch of athletes here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
but
bunch of athletes.
bunch of winners.
I'm sure LeBron James is very concerned with what we're all saying right now.
Yeah, he
I
totally
dude, he
cares.
tunes in.
On the mat. And I wonder how you how we do doing jiu-jitsu.
He's a freak, bro.
Yeah.
Like, have you ever been close to somebody that played in the NBA?
Nah.
Dude.
I don't know.
Like, go to a game and just kind of like be close enough to see them, and you're like, that's not a human.
Yeah.
That's like, that dude is not the same species of person as me. He's a foot taller than me and can run fast as fuck, probably strong. Like, dude, I rolled with a guy one time that played like 4 seasons in the NFL. And I saw this dude, and I'm like, oh, look at this big blue belt. I was like, I'm going to fuck this guy up. Bro, gave me all I could handle. I was a black belt. It didn't matter. He's a freak.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And that's a dude that, like, didn't hack it for a 20-year career. You know what I mean? If I would have put Michael Jordan in a gi, I'm pretty sure he would have been all right.
Yeah. That's we got the boogeyman for Kyle. It's just Michael Jordan in a gi in the closet. It's just
I'm the least athletic person in the world, so I would be like, I can't throw a football. I can't catch a baseball.
Yeah.
I'm lucky jiu-jitsu has a mat, so I can't fall down. Like, if I hadn't found jiu-jitsu, I wouldn't be playing any other sports.
Did you play any other sports in like high school or anything?
No. Dude, my dad coached football my whole life, and it's like much to his embarrassment that I can't throw a football. He like loves that I do jiu-jitsu and comes to all my stuff, but he's like, fuck, man, I really wish you could like catch. He's like, I know you like make money on this, but he's like, could you please learn how to throw a football and not embarrass me?
If you just have like a camera following him around doing athletic stuff, it's like a comedy show.
Oh yeah, dude.
It pisses me off because he's good at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I don't have good balance. I'm just strong and good at jiu-jitsu. I don't have good balance. My cardio is kind of mediocre.
What kind of kid were you in growing up?
A degenerate.
Yeah.
Were you into, like, long hair, heavy metal music?
Yeah.
I always make this joke to my guys. Where my gym is now, so I grew up, I'm from Horsham. Where my gym is now is right next to this bar. And I'm like, this is the bar that I used to drink 40s out in back of where my gym is when I was like 14. I would get like homeless people to buy. I'm like, now I'm like a business owner contributing to the community. I've really come such a long way.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Humble beginnings, man.
Yeah, dude.
We all start somewhere.
Yeah. I'm like,
That's the name of this episode.
I came out the other day and there was graffiti sprayed on my gym, and I was like, motherfucker, who does this? And then I was like, I probably would have done that like 15 years ago. So I'm like, all right, I guess I could just paint over it.
Just make the cover of this episode him like wrestling a hurricane.
Yeah, right.
We should have brought him.
I stopped that all at a kind of young age. So I found wrestling when I was 15, and then it really it put me on the path that I was on. So
Yeah. The path.
yeah.
When are you going to start training jiu-jitsu, Gilmar?
Dude, when I feel like I can be committed to it. I know it takes commitment. I just know right now I'm not.
You know what,
Open
though? I
and committed
appreciate
to
being
it.
real with yourself.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
there's so
that's
many
a
guys
good
that
point.
start it, and then they're just like, oh, dude, I really want to, but this and that. I mean, how many times do I have that speech a month with guys that want to quit? And it's a shame because sometimes they are good or whatever, but they just don't have the time, and they would be great. Recognize that you have the time and do it when you have the time, dude.
Yeah, I feel like I do have the time. I just don't think I prioritize the time for it, and I don't think I can. So
That's what people always ask me when I'm going to have kids. I'm like, I don't want to prioritize the time for a kid.
yeah,
I'm honest about it.
How old are you?
31.
31.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm 36. You got time.
Oh, I got time. I don't know about how my wife feels about that, but nah, she doesn't want kids either. So,
Old guys around here.
Yeah.
Feel like a baby.
yeah.
I'm 29. So
How old are you?
27.
Just a little boy.
Little boy.
Is the chief going to watch this episode?
Yeah, I gotta give him a shout out. He probably watched. I'll send it over to him. You should have him on. Him and Alex, my partner.
That's my boy. He likes me more than Anthony. I don't even work for him.
I mean, if you think he'll come on, I'll have him on.
Yeah, he probably would.
Sometimes it's hard with like law enforcement or military type folk. Like sometimes it's a little like they're like,
It's like the same thing with him. Like I don't really talk about work. I just, I like my stuff that I do. I like comic books and crap and all that nonsense. But I don't know. As long as nothing crazy. I think he's like a pretty laid back dude. He's smart. He probably come on.
Yeah. He's the man.
He
Love that guy.
Me, dude. I'll like go into work and he's like, say hi to him. He's like, oh, how's Kyle doing? And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
cool.
It's that black belt connection. They got instant respect.
they just
It's pretty,
Yeah.
it's
they're like
pretty cool.
magnets.
He's
Yeah.
like my boss, and he like kicks the shit out of me, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. You don't see that
Dude,
often.
you're lucky. I wish I could fight my boss.
Oh,
I'm like, do you ever have any interest in jiu-jitsu
Yeah,
lessons?
get
I could
him
hook
in.
you up, dude. It's really cheap, I swear.
Really good.
yeah,
He's
good.
gonna see this podcast. I'm gonna get fired. Be like, you better start doing more arm bars. Pay that bills.
No, you should get him into it.
Yeah,
It'll be good for you, man.
yeah. He told me, he's like, oh, you do jujitsu? He's like, I used to do taekwondo. I was like,
Same thing, sign
exact same thing, man. Yeah, yeah. Oh
Same
God,
thing,
I had a
man.
guy tell me the other day about how he used to do karate, and he's like, oh, and this guy had to register his hands as deadly weapons. I was like, I'm sure he did, bud.
That's what like I have a black belt in karate. And so when people are like, oh yeah, I did karate, I'm like, we all did. We all did. You're safe now. You're safe now. Your secret's safe.
Oh,
with
there's
us.
so many guys, dude. I never
It's like your karate. Is
I never did
useless
kids
here.
martial arts. ever. So like I don't have that connection, but my co-owner, he's a black belt in 3 martial arts: Taekwondo, Aikido, and Jiu-Jitsu. He's like a Steven Seagal. He's like a fucking undercover ninja. You know, he's like 50 years old, the most unassuming dude. Works in a bank, and he'll just like trash like athletic 20-year-olds that come in.
So annoying.
It frustrates the shit out of him.
Jiu-jitsu, and like, I played sports my entire life, and I'm like, dude, I'm gonna come in here and beat up all these old dudes and these nerdy-looking guys. I'm getting beat up by like a dude's like this tall. I'm like, this is bullshit.
Yeah.
It'll humble you. Evan's a tiny dude, and he's mean as fuck. Like,
Evan fucks me up. I'm like,
Yeah, Evan's Evan, he's a little dog. We call him the Iron Chimp.
yeah, dude.
Yeah,
He is
'cause,
like
like,
a chimp.
Chimps are like unreal strong.
Yeah.
They're bony and like, but small still. But they can crush your skull. In that
Evan
hand.
gives me a tough time, dude, and I probably have 60 pounds on him.
Yeah, I can't quite figure out Evan's deal. He's got like this grit to him that's just like
Unreal
the
tough.
little guy tough.
Before I ever even met him, that was what everybody said. They're like, oh, Evan Chmielewski, that dude's tough as hell. Like,
Yeah.
he is just known for being tough. And now knowing him and training with him, it's not just his toughness. He's very, very skilled at jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I got a lot of respect for Evan.
Yeah, he moves a lot like Jeff does. Jeff
Jeff is unreal too.
But like Evan's got like this like if Jeff was like a orangutan,
Yeah.
Evan's a chimp.
Yeah.
It's like equal problems. But
Have you ever had Jeff on?
Nah,
Dude,
we've like
he's a talker, man.
we've
He would
talked
be
about
great
it.
for it. He would be great for this.
I think it's like a little complicated with his job to come on
Oh,
because he
yeah.
works in like
For the schools,
the
yeah.
school system and like Jeff Cobb. You've met Jeff.
Have I?
He's like Evan's
It's a mat
coach.
philosopher.
He's the mat flop. Yeah, he'll tie you up. Like
Dude,
a
he's always
pretzel.
sitting there holding like the Roman forum at the end, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Jeff, what are you talking about? He's like, just theories about thinking, and I'm like,
Yeah,
he's like, no, that's seriously what I'm talking about, like how the human brain works.
the night's over when like Jeff's like conducting court
Yeah,
or like
have I seen him compete?
not compete.
he doesn't.
He
compete.
doesn't compete.
Nah, he's
No.
old. Yeah.
He's just good.
He's so good.
he's so good.
Yeah, I won't tell his reason for starting jiu-jitsu on here with like I would rather have him on like rather than blow his spot up, but like his reason for starting jiu-jitsu is like movie quality like story.
Oh, I don't know. That's you'll have to tell me that
he
story.
got in a little physical altercation that got the better of him, and that wasn't really his choice. And like got a little.
Oh, I wish I had one of those cool stories. I was just
Yeah.
like, all right, I wrestle.
And
I
then
guess I should do jujitsu.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, they're also rolling around with sweaty men. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's cool to hear when people like you have jujitsu in their life because like it's like, oh well, this one thing I like, or like bullies, like for little kids, it's like, oh, then they train
I
jujitsu
hear
and
that
they
story
get
from
they,
parents all the time.
they get the confidence. Like,
Yeah.
it's wild to think because there's a lot of people I've met that are our age. And they're adults, and they're still getting bullied in like their jobs
Dude,
and stuff. And
it's
like,
crazy.
You come in and you're like, oh no, I got my blue belt now. You're not gonna talk down to me.
So one of my students
I'll choke the shit out of you.
is a doctor, and he was at his practice, and somebody wanted pain medication, and he wouldn't give it to him. The opioid crisis of America, right? So he wouldn't give it to him, and they attacked him. He's like, he's a big guy, but he's like, I didn't know what to do. So he's like, the first thing the person did was grab my coat and start shaking me, telling me to give him the medication. So he's like, I looked up online, and he's like, oh, that's jiu-jitsu. If they would have grabbed my jacket, I would have known what to do. Dude, he's been training for years. He joined the Air Force, actually, as a doctor because he's just like, oh, I want to do it. He's like, I have the confidence now. I'm in shape. So late in his career as a doctor, most people that join the military as doctors are doing it right out of med school. So, like, what that's done for that guy, like I said, everybody's reason and everybody's path is different. That's done more for that guy than it has for, most people that train. We have another guy that lost like over 100 pounds. He came in as like well over 300-pound dude, was very out of shape, hadn't done anything like that, was divorced, lost a bunch of weight, remarried, has kids, way happier than when he started. Like, what jiu-jitsu does for guys like that is way cooler than what it does for me as like a dude that just competes in jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I often think that like Friday nights, like the tappy hour is kind of like, I think we need it because we get in there, you like end the week out strong, and then like you get like a philosopher named Jeff that kind of like gives you gives you a fortune cookie, and then you leave being like, oh wow, the stars look good.
Yeah, right.
It's like,
dude, more wisdom has been spit on mats, in weight rooms, fucking shooting the shitload of ammo in the Army than in any college classroom or anything I've ever been in, dude. It's really, that's the places where you make those connections. And the stuff that goes, kind of under the radar for jiu-jitsu. When somebody first signs up and they want to do it because they want to defend themselves, or they want to do it because they want to get in shape, they don't realize that they're going to be hanging out and know some of their best friends from jiu-jitsu and be on podcasts and maybe own a gym one day, or maybe they're just divorced and sad and kind of lonely and they don't have friends anymore. They don't know that this is going to become their community. Dude, if I could sell people on those things rather than just the self-defense or the health and wellness benefits, I think my gym would be packed. I wouldn't be able to fit any more people in it.
Yeah. I often say a downside of being friends with me is I'm probably going to try and get you to train jiu-jitsu. He made a video for Evan where he got a few of us to do like a testimonial, and but like the way he packaged it, we'll send it to you after the thing. But the whole video was about the community.
It is. That's what it is,
really,
man.
I would say, the majority, like everybody thinks like, oh, jiu-jitsu, like it's tough, like you have to wrestle. It's like not that. I mean, it is that.
It is that.
It is that. We're not gonna lie.
The jiu-jitsu part's that, but the hanging out afterwards part isn't.
But you really don't get like that sense of a community because like you're doing difficult stuff together, so it kind of molds you together as like a camaraderie. Would you say?
Yeah. So I mean, the shirt I have on is for We Defy Foundation, which is a charity that I work with, and what they do is they provide scholarships for wounded veterans to train jiu-jitsu. And a lot of people hear that and they're like, why would a wounded veteran want to train? They might have, they're disabled. Not all the wounds necessarily for a disabled veteran are external. And they might have external wounds, but maybe they feel like, all right, man, like I don't have a leg anymore. There's no sports that I can do. I used to love running or whatever. Or I used to love playing football. They can adapt jiu-jitsu for that. But really the thing that really benefits them is once you get out of the military, if that was your sense of community and your sense of belonging, that can be really hard to find, especially if you're active duty and now you move back to a town that you haven't lived in 10 years and all your friends have kind of moved on. So getting on the mat and spending the time with the guys and the girls in the gym, and you guys are all working together towards this singular cause, and you all want to get better at jiu-jitsu, and now you've found that, that's really where the value for that is for these wounded veterans to find a sense of community again. To learn jiu-jitsu and to get in shape is awesome, but to have that, I think that's what a lot of them are missing, especially the ones that have emotional or PTSD problems. They're in this place where their opinion's valued again, and they're part of this team again, and maybe they can't work because of the issues that they have, but they can get that through jiu-jitsu. And that can be the same for any person that walks in there.
How did you get involved with that organization?
So I was training at a gym, Semper Fortis Jiu-Jitsu in Texas. I was down there for a school for the military, and the owner, Saad Al-Aziz, who's an awesome guy, and his wife Sway, we're both veterans. He was a Navy officer, and they kind of worked with it. And San Antonio, where I was in Texas, is where all of the military medical schools are. So there's big military medical hospital down there. Because of that, there's a lot of wounded veterans. So they kind of stay in that area and live there because they have the access to the healthcare they need. So his gym was a We Defy gym, and I met a guy that only had one arm from wounds from a war, and he was training and he was there because of that. And I met a couple other guys at some other gyms. I was like, man, what this charity is doing is awesome. So I came back here, and Riverfront Jiu-Jitsu in Delaware raises a ton of money for the charity, and they were doing these super fights that have become this huge event. And I was on the card a couple times, and one of the guys, Brian Grant, who's the national advisor for the charity and kind of coordinates all of the reps for it, he was like, man, you're a veteran, you're a black belt, I've watched you compete. He's like, why aren't you a part of the charity? I was like, oh, man, like I just, I like it, and I've done some fundraisers for it and just given away the money, but I was like, I would like to officially become a part of it. And he's like, dude, we would love to have you. So he brought me on board. We did a Veterans Day event at Saga that was huge this year. We used all veteran instructors, which I think is really important to the message of We Defy, and I think kind of gets lost in it sometimes, is to be like, we are veterans, we are black belts, or professional MMA fighters. If you guys are white belts that are veterans and you're like, oh, I don't know if I could, we're what you guys should be working towards.
Yeah, you're not telling a veteran like, hey, we don't know what you're going through,
right,
but you probably need jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
no,
right.
like we can, relate on some level and capacity, but like we're also doing this now.
Yeah, and
come forward.
And the veteran instructors that we assembled for that event were awesome. So it was me, my brother, who's a 15-year Army National Guard veteran, Afghanistan vet. Probably going to do his full 20 years, and get out, but he has a lot of military experience. Mike Shea, who's a black belt, Air Force pilot, I think still in the Guard. Josh Adams, friend of mine who started B-52 Jiu-Jitsu down in Georgia, Marine Corps vet that's out, combat veteran. and Sandy Chang, who's a brown belt and professional MMA fighter, and is also an engineer in the National Guard. So we had not only, all these different perspectives, officers, enlisted, men, women, people that are out, people that are still in, people that have been active duty. So, we wanted to say that, like, look at all of us, look at our range of experiences in life, in the military, look at what jiu-jitsu's done for us, and we want to give back to that community. And all the instructors were of the same mind about that.
Do you think there's like another, besides jiu-jitsu, is there another community that supports the veterans like in that way? I mean, because like you have like the shooting community,
Yeah,
but, like,
probably.
that's
Probably
that's
yeah.
it, right? It's not like people are lining up to like ski after they've been back from war. Like,
Yeah,
just
I don't know. I think that jiu-jitsu by nature of it, there's a lot of like,
there's a lot of comparisons. It's
Yeah,
like you're
there's-
fighting yourself, you're fighting
Yeah.
other people.
they learn it, they're exposed to it in the military to a degree. But I think that it's just the amount of veterans in the jiu-jitsu community have pushed the agenda. Like a guy like Brian, like I said, awesome guy. He's an officer still in the National Guard. He's pushing that community to his fellow people in the gym, in the military. So guys like that are really leading it have brought this community together. So if somebody wanted to do that in another sport, I'm sure they could. In MMA too, it's big. The UFC used to have Fight for the Troops. They always have stuff on sponsoring them. So I think that, something about fight sports and combat sports speaks to veterans because we're inclined to want to fight, right? That's why a lot of us join the military.
What I guess we'll leave it on this. Like, what are you guys getting into this year? Like, what is up and coming for Saga?
Yeah,
and the
so
team?
we are really expanding. We've been having a great year so far. Our kids team is really growing. That was something that we didn't have historically, and Maida, my co-owner, has done an awesome job with our kids program, really growing that. And I'm excited to see them maybe start competing a little bit if some of them want to, but just bring up kids that then are going to be adults doing jiu-jitsu. And it's like this kid on day one in their adult class, it might be their first adult class, but they've been training jiu-jitsu for 5-6 years. What's that going to be like as they start to mature? I didn't have that available to me as a kid, so that's going to be really cool to see. Our beginners.
We have a young lad.
I probably roll with this kid. I think I know.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say his name. I'm pretty sure we legally can't.
Yeah,
but
right.
he talks about, like, sometimes we'll be talking, like, him and Evan and me will be like, we'll be talking about, like, oh, he's not good at this, not good at that. I'm like, bro, you're 15. I'm 36. When you're 36, like, 36-year-old you would kill 36-year-old me.
Yeah.
And that's like, so you don't put the pressure, but like to see these kids like wrestle and then come and go and then like develop as like young guys and then come in, like, start wrestling with adults.
Yeah.
You're like, you can't take any leisures with these young guys because like they'll sneak up on you.
Yeah. So our kids program is definitely growing, and that's really cool to see. That beginners class, like I said, one of my purple belts, Paul, is teaching that now. He's doing a great job with that. And then just for me, like singularly, my focus is really to grow our competition team and take more of our guys out to competitions. We have a couple guys coming up, super fights, Place of Peace, Chronic Combat. My brother, he's got some stuff coming up. Finishers Jiu-Jitsu, who's been great to us. Huge shout out to those guys. They put my guys on the show all the time. They put me on the show all the time. But really, those are the big things: growing our kids program, growing our beginners program, and growing that competition team. We have such a great base of experienced adult upper belts to just keep growing the bottom of it and have them at the top, and then just be able to mentor the guys down at the bottom.
Yeah, that's cool to think about because you kind of have like a recipe that just like it's just gonna breed more talent. As you get more talent, it kind of just like compounds.
Yeah, it's one of the really cool things about Saga only being 3 years old, right? Like I think about other gyms where they would be in their first 3 years, and it's me and Evan kind of started our gyms at similar times, and that's part of why we kind of go back and forth about a lot of stuff. And he, I think, has a lot of the same values about his gym that I do about mine, and to have that base from it being another gym of these guys that wanted to stick around, and obviously they stuck around because they wanted to make the gym better, has really just elevated everybody else. And
That's
having
awesome.
such a great community around it.
Yeah, I'm happy for you guys. That's it's cool that like I mean you're just getting started, but kind of feels like you've done so much already.
Yeah. I mean, coaching since I was a purple belt or whatever. Just I think so many guys rush into wanting to open a gym or any kind of business, and maybe they do it a little too soon. And I think I'm kind of glad I did it at the stage of my life I did it.
Yeah. Do you think that just kind of like happened because like everything just kind of came together for you in the right opportunity? So
Yeah, I think that one of the big things that I would say to a lot of people is, do it when it makes sense for you. But if there's a good opportunity, you know, seize that opportunity because it might not come along again. But, you know, don't rush into things when you don't have the experience. You know, be prepared so that when those opportunities present themselves, you can capitalize on them.
That's awesome. You got anything for us, Mustache Man?
Nah.
You laughed the way you laughed. You're like, you're like the Pillsbury
Maybe
Doughboy
I
over
do.
there. You're
No,
like,
no.
He's like, I got something with this mustache for you.
yeah. Where's the weird noise that you made?
What weird noise?
Or it's like,
Oh,
that's what your mustache.
Damn,
sounds
you got the
like.
diamond cuts on there, like
Club on.
That one? Stupid one?
that's the noise if your mustache could talk.
Yeah, see that's it. He feels it.
Yeah, yeah.
Club on next.
You're right.
Gang violence.
There's that one too. I
Anyway.
don't believe in it anymore. But no, man.
Yeah.
No, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate
Yeah,
you
dude,
being
I
here.
love to talk, so anytime.
Yeah, dude, you guys can come back anytime. Obviously, you probably won't be back until like you get hurt again. So hopefully hopefully that doesn't happen.
What I hope is that I can come back and talk about how triumphant my return was and how I did it so quickly, and I can sell my back to competition program then.
Part of the
Yeah,
saga.
dude. Yeah, $9.95. Build your shoulder back.
The saga of Saga.
Yeah.
He's gonna call out Lomachenko when he comes back.
Yeah. Gonna rip his shirt off.
Yeah, just be like the dog is back.
Yeah. The dog is back.
Just like a Rottweiler, just like fucking on the screen.
Oh yeah.
Hold him back.
Yeah, let me TRT up. Be like, he looks great after only 3 months.
He was like, "Oh,
How'd he get so big?
Yeah, shoulder rebuilding program endorsed by Gordon Ryan.
Yeah. Find this and more, Ever Titan TRT.
There you
Yeah,
go.
made in Mexico.
Yeah.
If he had a spirit animal, what would it be?
Who, Kyle?
Yeah.
A pug.
A bug.
A pug?
It's like a pug on steroids.
What the fuck?
But you just like super non-athletic, but they're like vicious.
Fuck
man.
that,
They're
dude.
He
ferocious.
looks like he can
pug?
breathe.
I don't think a pug. He'd be one of those like those like little pit bulls that like are just jacked as shit.
Yeah, hell yeah.
That'd be
That's
tough.
where I'm going with a fucking pug.
Bully
Yeah,
dogs.
dude.
Maybe like a T-Rex because you got like tiny arms. Yeah.
But still intimidating. He can't grab you from
Is he
afar.
only saying this right now because you're like in your?
Oh,
you get your
dude,
you're
every
a
day,
downed bird.
every day these guys think that they can get away with something because my arms hurt, and I'm like, you could strap this thing around me with a belt. I think I'd still do all right.
So we
I
like,
think I'll be okay.
we live
He's
in-
just taking notes. He'd be like, "This
Oh,
one
yeah.
day, Anthony said this."
got my name on a board. I'm like,
Yeah, like Eminem in that Stand video.
He's like, when Khabib was like, "I deserve this," and
Yeah,
he just
right.
comes back.
So he like had his surgery or whatever. He's sleeping on the couch. So we live in the same house. So I come home from work. I'll work like night shift or day shift and get home like early or late. He'll be sleeping there. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna punch him right in the face.
Yeah, he's sending me videos of like when Stone Cold was fucking up Vince McMahon when he was in the cast. And he's like, this is going to be me and you. I'm like, both my legs could get chopped off and I'll still win.
But it's funny. He's like all cuddled up in a blanket like a baby. I'm like, dude, I'm just gonna rock him right. You know what I mean?
To record a
I'm a
video of
punch
just
him,
you doing
punch
this.
him.
Anthony
Send it to
doesn't.
him.
Anthony doesn't want to tell this story, but when he was probably a white or a blue belt, I bet him that I could tuck my arm into my belt and still beat him with one arm. It didn't go well for him. So I have the data to say that with one arm, I will still win.
It is funny because you look at like old pictures on Facebook that pop up when we were like, I was like brand new and he was training for a little bit, and like he's doing all these crazy ass moves to me, and I'm like, just like the test on me, but it's crazy how far like we've come from.
Yeah, Anthony's the ideal crash test dummy for many people. He could tell a lot of his stories about fist fighting dudes that he shouldn't have been fist fighting in the gym.
Oh,
Too
you
tough
saw
for his
Zoo,
own good.
That was pretty good.
Oh yeah,
That was pretty, you guys know Zoo, right?
Yeah.
So we were at JBM. I think we do like
JBM,
we used to do a lot of sparring stuff, and you know, I was boxing someone. I got rocked pretty hard, and then I'm like, I usually say like when I'm boxing with like newer people, I'm like, yeah, we can go like light or easy or whatever you want to do. And I said it to Zoo. I guess he's like fought in the UFC and stuff, and I didn't realize I said it to him. And he's like, oh, you gonna take it easy on me? And just like lit me out, like pieced me up. I was like,
Anthony, how's taking it easy on him going?
so funny. I was like, oh damn.
Dude, the best is like when you roll with Kyle and you try some like sneaky shit, and you like I've like not gotten the better of you, but like just maybe got the glimpse of like what that would look like, and just like you have this switch in your eyes where you're like calm, Kyle, and then you're like, I can't believe you fucking just did that, and then you turn it, like,
Yeah.
and then you just squish me.
Ask every black belt. We all have that. We're like, this motherfucker, I'm just letting them get away with this. All right, now I got to kill him.
His brother does the same stuff though, man. Like he'll just
Oh, yeah.
I
dial
almost
up to 10.
I almost got a bolo done on Evan's one buddy Adam that trains on.
Oh, yeah.
I got
He's a
it.
good black belt.
I got 85% of it done before he like I don't even know how he got out of it, but the rest of my round was intense.
The best feeling is eventually when you guys get better, which I hope you both do, is then one day you're going to be like, oh, I can beat them without it just being sneaky.
Yeah.
It's a good feeling.
Yeah.
Or when you're sleeping on the couch, I just
Yeah. Or Anthony, he'll never get good enough and he has to beat me up in my
he's
sleep.
like in this sling. He wakes up and like heel hooking on, like tap, bro.
And is this the leg entanglement I'm supposed to go for? And you're
Yeah,
like,
right.
what the fuck?
Breaking and shit.
Go back to sleep. It's just a dream from the perks.
It's like, hush, child.
I'm like, I can't believe it. Anthony's winning. Something must be fucked up.
Nightmare. Oh my god.
Hey, you'd be like, you come into the kitchen in the morning, you'd be like, I had the wildest dream last night. I had you fucking won. And he's just like, well,
It is, dude. Every once in a while, that one of them does catch you slipping, like one of my blue belts or one of my purple belts, and like I'm happy for him, but I'm like, that actually just fucking happened.
yeah.
Me and my co-owner joke about this all the time. We have to take matches easy with guys all the time. Everybody gives us their hardest match of the night because you all want to make your fucking month by beating us. If we beat you, it's just Tuesday.
Oh yeah, when you guys when certain people show up at the gym, I'm like, I have like an order in which I do things. I like roll with the young lightweight kids.
Yeah, the warm-up rounds.
I get warm, and then I roll with Jeff, and then it's like, all right, now we're gonna go like Kyle, Evan, and then just go around the big dogs and just get pieced up. But
yeah, and that's why, like, with my Monday open mat that I've built and why we attract all these heavyweights, it's like, normally you would do that, right? You'd be like, all right, here's my light round, here's my hard round. But it's like when you attract a big group of guys, especially if you're like, you have that natural competitor in you and they're all the same size and same belt as you, you're like, all right, I guess I got to fight 10 black belt heavyweights tonight. And dude, that makes you so much better.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Sick.
Oh, yeah. So our buddy Anthony,
This guy.
Kyle Myers, owner of Saga BJJ in Horsham.
Hatboro.
Hatboro.
Yeah, SagaBJJ.com, at SagaBJJ on Instagram, 430 Jacksonville Road, Hatboro. Class is always available for all ages, starting at 7, ending at 70. You know what I mean? Class 7 days a week, free trial. Come check us out.
Yeah, definitely highly recommend. And then you got myself and Gilmar. Thanks for listening. We're going to cut this one short because we had too much of a good time. I got nothing else to say. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.